Hello, my name is host Eric. I'm the host Talking with Famous People, and today I would like to talk about life as a metaphysician. Omnia says at the beginning of this episode that meh is one of the best symbols of our times. And that indeed is the topic today. The topic is meh versus active metaphysical framework. So it's really a choice then between inaction, apathy, and or jadedness and or nihilism, mild nihilism, nihilism light, nihilism meh. The nihilism meh school of philosophy, kind of nihilistic, except it's too nihilistic to even care about nihilism. Um, I would say that when we're talking about one's own life, a lot of people, especially, a lot of people go through a period of time in which they engage in philosophical inquiry of some sort or another, and it typically coincides with college age. And a lot of people then put away those inquiries and move into some sort of career and find a more conventional path. At some point in their young adulthood, they'll realize, or they'll feel as though they're falling behind, and there'll be a certain panic. Um, the question is, what's motivating somebody, and why, and what do they feel is a person's what do they feel constitute a person's duties in life? So, I talk a lot about all this public policy stuff with the normative frameworks, but what I almost never do talk about is my thoughts on a personal framework that is much more proactive. So while I might believe I'm legally obligated or morally obligated to do very little, that doesn't mean that I don't behave charitably, or that can a single life project its purpose into existence. We can get to that in a second. Just because my normative rights, my negative rights normative framework for public policy is very limited in what it obligates me to do, it doesn't mean that I don't personally feel obligated to do more than that, right? It doesn't mean that as long as I don't violate your negative rights, I can fuck with you as much as I want it. I don't feel that way at all. I do ascribe to a separate personal moral framework that holds me to a higher standard than the minimum required by a negative rights framework. So I think it's important to understand, as a starting point for that personal framework, that you will necessarily affect impacts in the world. So Lorenz Walker, because he's here today, and I've talked to him before about challenges of NTP, young adulthood, and Callan's indicated he's got perhaps some of those same challenges, and I've heard from a lot of other NTPs. It frames the way this conversation goes down, right? And so your presence here matters. Matters because this video is different than it would be if it was just me but here by myself talking. It makes a difference to me that you're here a lot. And it makes a difference in terms of how the video plays out here a lot. In fact, it defines the nature of the video at this point. It's about how you come into any given moment as an understanding of your ability to affect impact in the world, and the necessity that you will affect some impact in the world, however minimal it might be. So I think the problem is we often think that when we're not doing anything, quote unquote, then we're not affecting any impact. We probably are. Like, you might not think this is a productive use of your time, but it feels productive to me. Now, obviously, I have more reason to think it's productive than you do, but the point is, regardless, you're affecting some change. And so when you sort of own that reality, that simple actions like what you're doing now can affect substantial change, then you start maybe framing your moments a little bit differently. And you start thinking, well, maybe simple things like that can make a change. Let me see what other simple things I can do that will feel productive. I can frame them in some way to make them seem more productive. The frame in terms of productivity like that instead of framing in terms of non-productivity. I think that's what NTPs often do in their young adults is they frame things in terms of non-productivity. They compare against a possible reality that they could envision in which they would be behaving much differently, right? But instead of worrying about that possible reality in which you could in which one could be behaving much differently, I think that it's better to narrow your scope of vision so that so that 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 big idea is not a big idea anymore, but just a bunch of little ideas.
Yeah, you compartmentalize it and break it down into chunks that could be taken on.
Yeah, I mean, fairly standard suggestion for dealing with big ideas. But I think that the problem with that sort of behavioral TE approach is it doesn't account for the fact that the big idea is always in flux. That's the problem that we have as NTPs. We don't like to commit to a particular course of action because we know that the game board's in flux. You know.
Hmm. Then I think it also brings up with like the whole nihilistic framework. Um, are these small changes, are they meaningful changes in any way? Like, even if it's your actions are promoting change in a certain way, is it meaningful? Does it have any matter?
Well, it's meaningful to me. I mean, that's the thing. You're looking too big picture, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that enough? It matters to me. I care. I appreciate your being here. I'm grateful to you for being here, and it's helping to frame this media. And so, as a consequence, to me, it's important. But I'm not saying, therefore, this is what you should always do. I'm saying, I'm giving you an example of how when we frame things a lot smaller, and we stop thinking like, well, I need to change the world in the following way. And we think instead about, oh, I need to, hold on.
Well, I think you could have that. I think you could have that set up as the macro as long as you fill in the efficient micros.
Sorry, famous person Lorenz Walker. My dogs were being bad.
Okay.
Proceed, please.
Okay, so I was saying that I think you could have that as like the ultimate goal or as the macro, as long as you fill in the sufficient micros. So the ways that you're gonna get there.
No, but see, that's the thing. You don't have to know those ahead of time. You just have to know one of them.
Yeah, you could adapt your path, but I mean, you can still set the macro there.
Listen to your INTP resistance. I got to bail after this video here, actually, because I got to go run a couple things. I'll probably be back later this evening, though.
Okay, hold on. I gotta be right back real quick.
All right, well, we're going to end this video then right here. I hope it was a good video. And for all those in attendance, thank you very much for being here. And I need to go do my shit. I got to stop procrastinating myself. I'm in the middle of doing exactly the thing I'm advising him about, right? I am totally, right now, procrastinating. I got to go take these papers to the EPS thing. I got to go to notarize. I got to fax them. I should have done it yesterday. And I decided to go to meeting instead. So, if you're procrastinating and fucking around and hanging out with host Eric, well, don't feel bad. Host Eric's procrastinating and fucking around and hanging out with you, too. So, it's a procrastination circle jerk or something. Anyway, on that somewhat inappropriate note, thanks for watching Talk with Famous People. See you later.